Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story about why it's better not to anger our OP, who's also a chemist. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't mess with me. I'm a pacifist. I've never truly been in a fight, and I tend to deal with most situations by compromising and talking to the other party. Rarely do I get personal or take things personally, but there was one kid, this one effing kid, who I actually let a grudge fester against. Never mind the fact that he peed all over my collection of magic cards while we were drinking, or the granola head demeanor he always had about him, despite the fact that he was also one of the most bigoted people I know, who just happened to always wear Bob Marley gear and tie-dye clothing while preaching peace and love, but being a rich scumbag. Never mind the fact that he tried hooking up with my ex the day he heard we broke up. All my hatred for this dude culminated into a vengeance plot over a simple Facebook conversation. The whole background is much too tedious to explain in full. His status made an obscure joke. Someone said they didn't get it, and I replied to that dude using what I thought was funny context to draw the joke in. Granola Head went off on me for this, but really in the end what inspired my hatred to reach its zenith was when he called me the R word, a word I'm very sensitive with as a person who's lived his life with a developmental disorder and worked very hard to become a functioning human being. At the time, I was pursuing an education in chemistry, so I had access to acids and other basic chemicals. I made some marquee myself using a 1:20 ratio of 30% formaldehyde and concentrated sulfuric acid. I made about 8 liters of it in the middle of the night, and I traveled up the dirt road to his house, parking at the bottom, and dumped it all over his car, not knowing if it would even do anything at all. I don't know what's in those paints and waxes, but whatever it was got effed up. He worked at a local pizza shop downtown, and behind it was his car. His car went from a dark metallic black to a bright orange pink. And our second story. Yes, I am the temporary manager. Karens really don't believe you if you look young, huh? A bit about me so it's easier to understand the situation. About a year and a half ago, I worked at a grocery store, one of many, and I got a job as the manager. Now note, I wasn't a full manager. I was simply filling in till someone else comes in, as I didn't have the full training for it. I'd only worked at the store for 8 months, but was more than capable of doing a manager's job. Ordering, counting the money, closing up an opening, making sure everything is up to date. I was doing my job. I did, however, look young, as I actually was. The store I worked in had many rude customers who would walk in looking to cause trouble, as if God had sent them on a mission and said, "Go, my child, ruin some poor cashier's day." So a day is like another. I'm in the dairy section looking for things that are going out of date. The only employees are 2 cashiers, 1 janitor, and me. I hear a commotion at the cash registers, but since my coworkers are way older than me, I figure they can handle the situation. Keyword, figure. I hear someone stomping towards me. It's like the gates to hell opened, and this absolute unit of a Karen marches towards me, her face filled with anger. She takes a look at me, turns around, and stomps back. What? I clearly have a little name badge which says OP, manager. I heard commotion again, but I'm on a tight schedule here, so I continue taking out all the bad cheese. Not 1 minute later, I hear stomping again. It's the most annoying, squeaky voice. She asks, "Are you the manager?" Me. "Yes, how may I help you?" Karen. "No, you can't be the manager. You're an imposter. I know all the employees in this store, and you're not one." I don't know why she's screaming at me, but in a calm voice I say, "I am the temporary manager. Is there anything I can do for you?" She yells, "I demand the real manager! A kid like you cannot be one! Give me the real manager!" I try to explain that I am one, but she keeps screaming like a pig being strangled to death. I tell her that she can call my boss, there's a number near the exit on the board, and she storms out. I hear her complaining about how I'm a liar and won't get the real manager, and how there's a kid at the store who's working illegally, how I'm incompetent and should be fired if I really work there. 10 minutes later, my boss pulls up, explains to the Karen that I am in fact a manager, and asks again how I could help. Turns out she ate a whole 24-pack of sausages and only then noticed they were 3 days till the expiration date, not even expired, and demands a refund. She got kicked out. Those expiration dates are basically meaningless anyway, especially for something like sausages. Milk maybe, but cheese, eggs, cured meat, they last for weeks. And our next story. Plumber hid my car battery. I took his back to my company. This is not my story, but a colleague's. The cast. C, my colleague. EP, the D-bag plumber. PT, the trainee of the EP. This story takes place on a Friday where our company worked till noon and the plumbers worked till about 4 o'clock. So a few years later, my company was commissioned to do a refurbishment of a pretty big building. The other contractors were all pretty nice, but here and there were some tensions between the different occupations. For example, the electrician put the cables in where the plumbers wanted to put their pipes. The drywaller put his walls up before anyone was finished to lay their stuff into the walls, etc., etc. So one day, the plumber thought it would be funny to take the battery out of C's car and hide it in his storage room. This was shortly after C arrived at the construction site, so he didn't notice it because he was setting up for the day. At about 10 a.m., the PT goes to C and the conversation ensues. PT, sheepishly, "Hey, I think EP took the battery out of your car and hid it in our storage." C, sarcastically, "Oh, and you have the guts to tell me? If this is true, I'll kick your butt." PT, "I'm sorry." C, "No problem." So C goes to check his car, and lo and behold, the battery's gone. He walks to the plumber's storage to search for it and takes it back to the car. Now comes the revenge part. He walks over to EP's car, disconnects the battery, and locks it inside C's car. Noon rolls around, and C packs his stuff to drive back to the company building. The EP stands at the window with a big vise in his hand and just grins at C. C tries to start the car, and it starts first try. The EP drops the vise, and his mouth flew open. C just grins back at him and wishes a great day. Back at the company, he goes to sit in the lounge with a beer in his hand and waits. About 3 o'clock, the EP hammers on the door, and this ensues. EP, "Open up, you crazy mother effer! Give me my battery back!" C, "I don't know what you're talking about." "I know you took it after I took yours." "Oh, so you took my battery. That's interesting to hear." "Yeah, so give me back my stupid battery." C is slowly getting up and opening the door. "Okay, come and get it, but I first have to get the keys." "Did you seriously lock it inside your car?" "Yeah, because some a-hole could come and steal it." "Just give it back." About 10 minutes later, the EP had his battery and drove back with the drywaller's car to the construction site. I should mention that the site was about half an hour away from my company. I hope you enjoyed it. And our last story. It doesn't work that way. A few years ago, I was working in a company that was bought out by another company based in the U.S. I'm also a big fan of trade unions. Not long after the takeover, there were hints of some issues with the company margins. It seems the original management had hidden some costs in the takeover talks, and there was a shortfall. We all got an email telling us there was going to be a 10% reduction in salaries to cover this. Now, this didn't go down too well, and I immediately raised the issue with local HR. They told me the decision had come from the mothership in the U.S., and they'd been told all discussions needed to go via the U.S. I contacted someone in the U.S. HR team and said, "You can't do this. It breaks the laws in our country." The response was, "You work for a U.S. company now. Our rules apply." I said I was pretty certain that's not how it worked, and if my salary is cut, I'd be taking this further and would be discussing this with my union. The person in HR said, "Do what you want. We don't recognize unions. Knock yourself out." I spoke to the union office and was told what to do. They effectively told me what the exact steps were going to be. Sure enough, my next salary was 10% short. I immediately submitted a format grievance report stating that the company was in breach of contract, no changes to my pay, and conditions can be imposed without first renegotiating my contract, and I had to agree to that. The response from HR in the U.S. was, "Let's be kind here. Not backed up by an understanding of employment law in this country. I was told there was nothing I could do about it. They set the rules, and that was it." The next stage then kicked in. I had all their emails. I had my formal grievance and their response. I sent an email to my line manager, our HR, and HR in the U.S. stating I considered that I'd been placed in a situation where the company were in breach of contract and that I had no option other than to leave the company with immediate effect. I also stated that I classed this as constructive dismissal and would be filing a case at an unemployment tribunal for wrongful termination as a result. Roll the clocks on a couple of months, and we're in the employment tribunal. The company has sent the head of HR across, and I'm waiting there with my support from the union. We walk into the tribunal, and the relevant parties are introduced. The head of HR with his smirking face, the local head of HR looking less relaxed, myself, and my legal representative, a barrister. As soon as the head of HR heard that I was with a barrister, his smug look evaporated. HR presented their case, then my barrister set out every single aspect of employment law here to the tribunal. He pointed out every mistake they made, every local law they broke, that the law in the U.S. only applied in the U.S., not in any other country. He pointed out that I had a long, unblemished record with the company, and that this case had come at a very high personal cost to me, and that finding another job would need more training and could take up to a year. It took less than 10 minutes to find against the company. They had to repay the deducted wages to every single employee in the country rather than fight a significant number of similar cases. I was asked if I wanted my job back, but told the tribunal I didn't feel I could work there without being subject to reprisals. I was awarded the maximum basic award and a significant compensatory award of a full year's salary, which let me take a year out to complete some additional technical training at their expense. I also got a glowing reference for my next employer. It cost me nothing for my barrister. That was all funded by the union. Those guys can apply the law down to its very finest point. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.